Tim, welcome to the show.
Hey, good to be back with you. It's the start of a new month.
Yeah, it's our regular phone call, and lots of things to catch up on, and lots of things for me to complain about, obviously. But why don't you give us a quick update, Tim? What's going on?
Well, I think what's exciting is the good things that are happening. We have challenges, but we sometimes miss the good things because certainly the national media doesn't want to talk about it. The fact that we now are at 4.1% GDP growth for this quarter, which is historic in nature. We this last month dropped to the lowest unemployment rate in 50 years at 3.9%. So we have more jobs available now than people that are ready and willing to fill them. We had increase last month of 150,000 jobs. It's humming right along. And when you think about the fact that now America's leadership is actually talking with North Korea, with Iran, with China, with Russia, and stating our case in an unequivocally strong way that we expect certain things to happen or the negotiations won't continue and certainly good conclusions won't come, and they keep talking to us, and the rest of the world looks on and, oh, by the way, says it's kind of neat to see America back and strong, and then the EU commissioner comes just 2 weeks ago and says, Mr. President, we want to buy more of your soybeans, and we want to buy your LNG. That says two things. One, China, if you're not going to take America's soybeans without huge tariffs, we'll take it. And Russia, if you want to sell us and hold us hostage with natural gas, we can buy it from America. And those are good things that are taking place, and we need to remember that this is America drawing back into the power that it is. And then we can get in the frustrating things like a judge who I believe rules illegally and unconstitutionally, again, that DACA is to be the law of the land, and that the Homeland Security and Health and Human Services and America in general, this administration had no right to end DACA when, in fact, President Obama put it in after he said it wasn't proper for him to do it as well.
He had no right to put it in.
So it's an executive order that is unconstitutional, and yet this judge says it's violating the Constitution.
Appointed by Clinton.
To get rid of it.
Appointed by Clinton. What do you expect?
Hey, so is that going to go the next step up?
No, sadly, he was appointed by George W. Bush. And
well, another elitist anyways.
Yeah.
I have no love for the Bush family anymore. I'm done with the Bush family. I'm done with the Clintons. I'm just done with that whole establishment in the D.C. swamp. So,
well, I think even more so, it shows the priority that the third branch, the third rail of government, has put itself in and has run away beyond what their constitutional authorities are. And they become lawmakers, they become judges, and they, in a sense, have become a president as well, telling a president he can't do what the former president did, that said he couldn't do it initially. And when Congress didn't act, finally, after 17 times of saying, I can't do it, Congress, you have to, he ended up putting an executive order in. And all this president did was suspend DACA and then ultimately say those DACA recipients that are here, we're going to let them stay, but we're not going to carry on DACA. So this is absurd what's taking place, and I think it's time for the American people as well as their representatives in Congress to stand up and say, you know, we certainly respect the third branch of government, Article 3 powers, but we have just as much responsibility for the constitutionality of a law as a judge does, and when they go off the rails, we ought to call them out. And in fact, I would encourage the president certainly to appeal this, but in the meantime to consider other options up to including, say, Justice Bass has ruled, now let him carry it out. Knowing the fact that when President Jackson said that about Chief Justice Marshall, he basically said, I've got the Army, Marshall doesn't, I'm going to do what I want.
Bill Federer just told us that last week.
Yeah. There you go. Well, you wouldn't know any of that, Tim, listening to the media, because they're just going on and on about how horrible things are. And even Nancy Pelosi, who I'm really questioning her mental sanity at this point, talking about the tax cuts not working, talking about crumbs. It's sheer insanity. So I want to get an update, Tim. We're not seeing the documentation still from the FBI and the DOJ. What is going on that we can't get more action from Congress to lay down the line and make these guys?
It's Rosenstein, right?
Can't we do something to push Sessions or the DOJ or even the president to force that the FISA app just came out, right, and was fully redacted, and same with the dossier memo. Everything's getting fully redacted. We're not seeing any of this information. Is there a way to stop that and get the transparency?
Well, see, if you found where Sessions is at, I'd like to know. We don't see him anymore. My concern is, why doesn't the president ultimately lay down the law? He can supersede Sessions or anybody else and say to the FBI, say to the Justice Department, the duly elected representatives of the American people have requested you give the documentation. It can be carried on in a secure SCIF where no one can see it, no one can read it, no one can hear it talked about, but they have the right to see all the information that they've requested. The president could do this. I know that our leadership, as well as the chairman of the committees, have requested the White House to carry this out, but I'm not sure why it hasn't yet.
Because if Trump did that, if Trump were to do that, he'd have all the media in a howl trying to remove him from office.
Yeah, well, that's nothing new.
They already are.
That's right. They already are.
That's nothing new. So I hope that's the case, but I know that in the case of the Mueller investigation, it's not working in the favor of the Democrats. It continues to show there was nothing there. The only collusion that was potentially there was with Hillary Clinton. And that isn't working well. So in the end, it is, in a strange sort of way, has worked in the favor of this president and administration.
Are you guys impeaching Rosenstein or not?
I believe he will ultimately be held in contempt of Congress or impeached.
Well, isn't there a motion? Isn't there not a motion, but a movement to impeach him? And what happened to that?
They, Mark Meadows, chairman of the Freedom Caucus that put it forward, indicated to the president just before we broke for the August in-district period that he would hold off from pushing that to the floor. So I would guess it'll come back subsequent to us returning in September or subsequent to the November election.
Yeah, thanks for clearing that up for
me. Here's what bothers me. I guess I can understand why Sessions and some Republicans, including Ryan, and some of these people don't want to broach this because they feel like, yes, the media and the Democrats are going to make us look bad if we open this up. But here's my thought. If you declassify all that information, let the public see it. Once we see it, we're going to be okay with Jeff Sessions or the president doing these things and firing Rosenstein and letting that out. Put it out there. Let us see that information.
Tucker Carlson was telling Nunes to leak it to him so he could put it out on his TV show.
Let the people see it, and then you can go ahead with the prosecutions, the impeachments, because we're all going to know. You know what I mean? Just end game it and be done with it. Let us see that information. I want the president to declassify everything. Let us see it.
Yeah. The only thing we have to be very careful of is procedures and policies that are used for these things. Some of those we do need to be cautious about letting them out to full disclosure. But the facts and the information, that's another story, and I concur with you. And that, again, is what Nunes, what Trey Gowdy, what Speaker Ryan and others have strongly requested and mandated under Article 1 powers. And yet, because we have no prosecutorial powers, we have to leave that to Jeff Sessions and the Justice Department. and frankly, we don't know where he's at.
The invisible Jeff Sessions.
That again is why probably there will be, I would guess, from talking with my colleagues at least before leaving, that when the proper time is to bring up that impeachment resolution, it will move swiftly, and he will be impeached. It just like we did with Holder in holding him in contempt of Congress.
Mm-hmm. That went far.
Yeah. So, Tim, we've got Gary from Hazel Park wants to ask you a question about DACA. Derek, can you bring him in? Because I don't want to do the hang-ups on anybody. Gary, are you there?
Yeah.
Go ahead and ask.
Well, my basic question is, why can't the president just basically ask this judge under what authority he has to issue him any kind of order whatsoever on DACA.
Okay, Tim, you got an idea? Tim? Did we lose Tim? All right, thanks, Gary. Hopefully we'll...
you.
I didn't touch anything this time.
That's why I don't touch anything anymore.
All right.
That's why Derek makes the big bucks.
Tim, are you still there? I think we may have lost Tim. Doggone it.
I'm here.
Oh,
you know what? One of the things it's important to get Senator Pat Kolpeck elected governors, because if we don't, we're going to sound like some schizophrenic bipolar nutbags. Because half the day we're going to be talking about how wonderful the country is because we've got Donald Trump as president, and the other half of the day we'll be worrying about Michigan and Abdul ruining things for us.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's real important that we get Senator Kolpeck in there. Because the alternative is disaster.
Yep, absolutely. All right, well, thanks, Gary, for the call. If we got Tim back here, we'll have him try and answer that for you. Derek, did you get Tim back? Okay, bring him on.
I'm back.
All right, so did you hear that question, Tim?
No,
All right, the question was, Gary was asking, why can't the president ask that judge, under what authority are you telling him that he has to allow this illegal executive order, unconstitutional executive order, continue?
There's nothing that prohibits the president from doing that, and I assume that his lawyers will,
That's what I was
in
thinking.
fact, do that. The one thing that in at least what I've heard of that decision is that the judge didn't say that the president couldn't stop DACA. The reasons, though, that was given by the administration's attorneys didn't fit what he believed was the proper argument. Well, that sounds like a bunch of gobbledygook to me, but that does say that if they say the right words, whatever that is, they can end DACA. So I would assume that the president's attorneys are fine-pointing right now all of the judge's decisions, and ultimately will either resubmit a document that uses the right language, whatever that might be, or does a direct appeal. But I contend, again, that there may be a time, just like presidents in the past who've said to judges, including Supreme Court justices, you've ruled, but now you carry it out. What authority, what power, what army do you have to do that? And I would be tempted to do that if I were President Obama, especially with the great support he has from a base
Trump.
that understands, or excuse me, Trump, thank you.
No problem.
The great support that he has from the people understanding that he's not doing the same old stuff.
Yeah.
Well, you know, that judge did give him, what was it, 30 days, 20 days? I can't remember, but they have
20 days.
20 days, yeah. So they've got 20 days. And then one of our problems we face is it's a 4-4 court right now on the Supreme Court. This is not something we want to come to the Supremes yet until we get Kavanaugh in.
Yeah. So, have you heard anything, Tim? Are we going to have Kavanaugh before the election?
I hear all good reports that we're going to have Kavanaugh.
Okay.
And last I heard, they thought that he would be seated before the midterms. The Democrats are starting to look really stupid about, and of course Schumer generally does look that way, but they're starting to look very silly and petty with the type of arguments that are making. And now, after Kavanaugh has met with, I believe, 3 of the most vulnerable Democrat senators who are up for re-election in states that Trump won, I tend to think we're going to have that a confirmation vote before the midterms, and he'll be seated. The Democrats will ultimately say, use that as a rallying cry to say, we can't take a chance to have our next justice go away and Trump have another opportunity. So now, folks, you've seen what's happened. We have to make sure that we take back the Senate and take back the House and make it very difficult for this president to do anything in the remaining 2 years.
Tim, I have a question for you regarding Schumer. This may sound stupid, funny, whatever, but you watch him when he speaks on television, right? When he's looking down at his notes over the top of his glasses and just droning. You've seen these, right?
Well, that's how he talks generally.
Okay, so there's a blonde woman who's sitting to our right, his left, unsmiling blonde woman who's invariably there. Who is that?
It could be Senator Patty Murray.
Really?
Oh, shortish hair?
Yeah.
Like that?
Yeah,
Yes.
she's always just sitting there while he's
Yeah.
speaking. I have no idea who
Yeah.
she is, what
Yeah.
she's doing. She doesn't look supportive.